gorgeous. The sun was rising. The clouds were pink and orange. You could see the blue. And then all of a sudden it starts pouring down rain an hour later. And now it looks like we're back to blue sky. I got no idea. Wherever you are, I hope it's a wonderful day, even if it's Monday. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. CPAC was this weekend, the Conservative Political Action Conference. It's been going on since 1974. This is an interesting one because this is the first time that there's been a former president who CPAC liked, who lost and could run for a second term. And so there was a great maneuvering. How do you run for president while not overshadowing the president? And a lot of people want to try. The interesting straw poll, it was kind of funny. There was a national poll. It had Donald Trump as the choice of the GOP with Mike Pence number 2. At CPAC, it was Donald Trump followed by Ron DeSantis. Mike Pence was last. And then if you get to if you take Trump out, Ron DeSantis was dominant. And I actually think that probably is where the party is, that DeSantis probably is the front runner if Donald Trump doesn't run. But Donald Trump signals that he probably is going to run, and he may very well run on a "see, I told you so" campaign.
So they're pouring fumes. The world is actually a small piece of the universe, right? They're pouring fumes, and we're trying to protect everything and building products for 3 times more than is necessary. No, they could have made a great deal. If they were going to go back in, that's fine. But they could have made a great deal instead of just say, we're back in. These people. And in one of his first official acts, which was incredible because, again, he talked about energy. He never said he was going to do this. He canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, destroying not the 8,000 or the 9,000 or the 11,000 jobs that you hear, but 42,000 great-paying jobs on just about day one, right? He never talked about that during a debate because he wouldn't have gotten away with it. Well, he would have because they cheated so much it probably wouldn't have. No, but that was not a topic of conversation, remember? Fracking, you can frack. Oh, we love fracking. During the primary, no fracking. As soon as he got through that, he said, no, of course, everybody can frack. No fracking.
Yep. Listen, he could run in 2024 on the "See, I Told You So" campaign. Echo Rush Limbaugh's book title. He could do it. I don't know that he will, but he could. A little more of the president at CPAC.
And I want you to know that I'm going to continue to fight right by your side. We will do what we've done right from the beginning, which is to win. We're not starting new parties. They kept saying, he's going to start a brand new party. We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before. I am not starting a new party. That was fake news. Fake news, no. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Let's start a new party and let's divide our vote so that you can never win. No, we're not interested in that.
By the way, that story, looking through the headlines yesterday and today, I was not surprised to see that was a major headline. No new party, Trump says. No new party. Well, of course he was never going to start it. If you've listened to this program long enough, you've known that the president was not going to start a new party. Now, why? There are a number of reasons. One, he was the president elected by the Republican Party. It's kind of his party. All of this talk about a supposed Republican Civil War kind of ignores the fact that the president is dominant within the Republican Party. The Liz Cheneys, the Adam Kinzingers of the world, they're kind of the minority of the party. They're not going to go start a new party either. They're going to stay within the Republican Party. I mean, it's the same. Democrats would love it if the Democratic Party went towards Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but they've got the Tim Ryans of Ohio in the party who won't let them, and they squabble it out. It's actually good for the Republican Party, I think, to have a level of division in ideas. They got to battle it out internally on those ideas. I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy. He's not going to start a new party. Ballot access laws are too difficult. The money is too difficult. The rules oppose nationwide with ballot access in states growing a new party. He's got the Republican Party. It was a pipe dream of progressives in the media to say, oh, I wish he would just go away and start his own party. Knowing, of course, it's fairly impossible to do. Now, of course, you have Trump supporters in the party say, let the Liz Cheneys of the world go start their own party. Well, she was here first. She's not going to go away either. They're going to have to accommodate each other or beat each other. And I don't know that they're going to beat each other. And then one more bite from the president.
To so many wonderful friends, conservatives, and fellow citizens in this room and all across our country, I stand before you today to declare that the incredible journey we begun together, we went through a journey like nobody else. There's never been a journey like it. There's never been a journey so successful. We began it together 4 years ago, and it is far from being over. We've just started.
All right. Here's the thing. If I were a betting man, I would submit to you the president, Donald Trump, is not going to run in 2024. Now, listen, just follow along with me here before you start yelling at me. In 2024, he's going to be 78 years old, 78 or 79. Not only will he be 78 or 79 years old, but the media, over the next 4 years, sneezing fit, the media over the next 4 years is going to do everything they can to drum up allegation and accusation against President Trump. Now, you can say, well, that didn't work 4 years ago, and you're right, but there's a difference this time. This time, you're going to have Democratic attorneys general around the country do everything they can to ruin Donald Trump financially. I would submit to you it would be advantageous for President Trump to say he's going to pass the torch, only for the sake of his personal financial situation. Because, for example, the Manhattan District Attorney now has his financial records. They're going to drag it out. They're going to smear him. They're going to do everything they can to persecute him, to stop him from running again. They're going to bleed him dry. It would probably be easier for him. Of course, he's a fighter. Maybe he does want to fight him on this. But it would be easier for the president to be now the man behind the throne, the shadow president, if you will, than to be back in the White House. So he can still control the party and control its nominee, pick its nominee, someone who will deal favorably with him, give him access, but also not have to deal with the slings and arrows that come with it. Now, maybe he'll choose to run again. My sense is probably not, but that he's going to be the dominant force, at least for the next 2 years for sure, in the GOP. And everyone else is doing this weird dance around him. So here's what I can tell you the dynamics are. Mike Pompeo, his Secretary of State, is interested in running for President of the United States. Ron DeSantis is interested in running for President of the United States. Rick Scott is interested in running for President of the United States. Josh Hawley, interested in running for President of the United States. Ted Cruz, interested in running for President of the United States. Nikki Haley, Tom Cotton, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The field is going to sort itself out. Like, for example, I'm not sure Cruz or Hawley actually will. Hawley says he's not, and everybody kind of knows, wink, wink, nod, nod, he actually wants to. Rick Scott seems to think that he wants to, but if DeSantis runs, there's no way Scott wins Florida. DeSantis wins it. Scott can spend as much money as he wants. DeSantis is too popular. In fact, the two people I would keep my eyes on for 2024, there are actually 4 people I would keep my eyes on for 2024 right now. And there will be more. But watch what Pompeo does over the next several years. Where does he land? Does he go to a think tank? Does he build a staff? Does he start a nonprofit? Does he start a super PAC? Watch where Pompeo goes. Watch Ron DeSantis. He'll be up for re-election in 2 years. If he wins in 2 years, he'll probably be the Republican nominee in 2024. If he loses, he won't be in 2024. Watch Nikki Haley. It's very clear she's running. Watch Tom Cotton. What does Tom Cotton do? Cotton, I think, wants to run for president. He is a foreign policy hawk, strong on China, big on cancel culture. Has not burned bridges that Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz have burned in the last couple of months. I would keep my eye on Josh Hawley. He says he doesn't want to do it, but everybody's convinced he wants to. DeSantis and Pompeo, though, are the two that I would watch the most. DeSantis also spoke at CPAC.
So we were very simple, Mark. Seniors first. And that was against the CDC recommendations. The CDC initially, they didn't want to put seniors in front of the line at all. They wanted to do young workers. And actually, their initial guidelines would have had a 20-year-old grocery store clerk get a vaccine before a 74-year-old grandmother. And that did not make any sense in terms of where the risk is on this. So I was the first governor in the country to reject those guidelines. And I said, we are going to do our 65 and up community. Now, that's 4.5 million people in Florida, so that's a lot of folks. But it's important to be able to do that. So we set a very clear standard, 65 and up, and we continued to go all over the state to try to get that done. We've now done millions of senior citizens, and we're not done yet, but we're getting closer every day. And I think those states that prioritize the elderly for vaccination, when the dust settles on this in a few months, I think you'll be able to show that you were able to reduce mortality more than the states that were. Some states are doing their prisoners before their elderly, Mark. I mean, it's crazy. I didn't want politics to be into this. I wanted to focus on where the risk was and what's happened since then. And of course, I was criticized because whatever I do, they're gonna try to hit me. But I was criticized. But then other states started following Florida, and even the CDC had to say, no, you do need to do 65 and up. So we were right on that, and I think we were right because we had a firm grasp of the data. We understood where the risk was, and we were going to make sure that we were applying those resources that would save the most lives.
That was Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. That was him talking to Mark Levin on Fox News. Important you hear that clip for the context of what he says at CPAC, because one of the things you need to notice is that DeSantis has a consistent message. Sometimes you go on TV and you're talking to the broader American audience and you say something different than what you say to the hardcore crowd. So that was him. Yes, he's talking to Mark Levin. Yes, he's talking to Fox News. But that's still different from CPAC, where the base of the base is at. And what you're going to hear now is the DeSantis CPAC remarks. And listen to how very similar it is to his message to the broader audience. You know, you've got the situation with Barack Obama, for example. Barack Obama, remember when he campaigned in 2008, Barack Obama would go behind closed doors and talk about the Hicks and the Rubes bitterly clinging to their Bibles and religion. And then he would go out and say, I think it's respectful for people to have guns and religion is good. He would say one thing to his closed base of bases and something else to the larger audience. DeSantis has a consistent message. So there he is with Mark Levin talking about challenging the CDC, opening up the state of Florida, getting people back to business. And then here's this message at CPAC. He's not saying one thing to one and something else to the other. He's got a consistent theme of getting Florida open back to work and taking care of citizens, particularly senior citizens.
We are an oasis of freedom in a nation that's suffering in many parts of the country under the yoke of oppressive lockdowns. We look around in other parts of our country, and in far too many places, we see schools closed, businesses shuttered, and lives destroyed. And while so many governors over the last year had kept locking people down, Florida lifted people up. Florida is leading in protecting our vulnerable residents, saving the economy, and safeguarding the freedom of our people. In Florida, schools are open. Every Floridian has a right to earn a living, and all businesses have a right to operate. Now, we are stronger as a state and much happier as a people because of this leadership.
That's Ron DeSantis talking to CPAC. You heard him talking to Mark Levin, and you heard the consistency of his message. And it's a consistency of message that very few governors in the state of Georgia, other than, for example, Brian Kemp, can give. There's a solid consistency here for him. And that's why I would keep my eye on him. Now, when we come back, I want to play the talk about Pompeo, because I realize we're in 2020 and we're talking about 2024 and all sorts of things can change. That's very true. But one of the big issues here is that the Republicans, they're trying to find their ground because they're pretty convinced behind the scenes, the whispering you hear from the GOP is that Donald Trump's not going to run in 4 years. Now, of course, remember, most of them in 2016 didn't think he was a serious candidate then, myself included, actually. We shouldn't discount him this time. He is the leader of the Republican Party. But we got 4 years, and they want to try to figure out, how do you chart a path towards the White House where Donald Trump's not given up power yet, but you want it? What do they start doing? And will some of them try to privately undermine him? We'll discuss when we come back.
Want to be on the show? Call Eric now.
Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number, should you like to be a part of this here program, is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I'm interested in Mike Pompeo. I'm interested in Mike Pompeo because Pompeo, I think, does want to run for president and has a mantle of accomplishments as Secretary of State and as the head of intelligence. I guess he was head of CIA, to be able to do this. He was a congressman from Kansas. President Trump elevated him. And it's going to be interesting to see how Pompeo maneuvers over the next 4 years in the shadow of Donald Trump. From what I'm told, He is very interested in it. And of all the cabinet secretaries and people around the president really likes Pompeo. And he spoke at CPAC on the issue of China, a galvanizing issue these days.
The hallmark of our work here in America was that we were bold and fearless. And what I hear today, I hear Democrats pretend they care about jobs in America. But before the seats were warm in the Oval Office, they destroyed 10,000 jobs in a pipeline. You know, and I see too, my predecessor's predecessor, green geek John Kerry, right? He thinks these folks are all going to go make solar panels. I'll tell you what, you ask the good people of Midland, Texas, Oklahoma, or Kansas, or South Dakota, or Pennsylvania, you think petroleum engineers and rig hands are going to go out and make solar panels? No, and you can bet this too, those cheap Chinese solar panels will start flooding into America like you have not seen. And this won't be good for the United States of America. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes we get accused, say we don't care about the environment, we create jobs that destroy the environment. That's just not true. We didn't do it. We didn't protect the environment on the backs of American workers. There were more job openings than people looking for work for much of these past 4 years. It was an amazing accomplishment. And when the Chinese wanted to come steal your job, we just said no way. 40 years, bipartisan, Democrat and Republican, 40 years of failure. Letting made in China crush us was going to stop. We demanded fair and reciprocal trade. Never forget too, China depends more for us than we do on them. President Trump understood that, our foreign policy understood that, and we protected the American worker from the Chinese Communist Party's predation on us here in America.
Listen, he's got a good message given people's concerns about China. The question is, there's a question behind the scenes of those who may want to come after Pompeo. If you will recall, after January 6th, there were people within the cabinet who began having conversations about deploying the 25th Amendment. It was State Department staff who led the discussions. This has been widely reported at this point. Pompeo was not around. The question is, does that get tied back to him? Do people who don't like Pompeo try to undermine the president's faith in Pompeo in the run-up to 2024? What we're going to see is a soap opera on the Republican side. We're going to see a soap opera. It is going to be fascinating to watch. And I don't know how it shakes out. You're going to have the media coming after Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz. You're going to have some Trump supporters coming after Pompeo because of what his staff did while he was away after January 6th. You'll have obviously a lot of them coming after Nikki Haley as not being sufficiently loyal. It's going to be interesting to see if the GOP can unite. And Donald Trump may be the only one who can really rally the base in the run-up to 2024. Well, welcome back first. It is Erick Erickson here. If you would like to call in and be a part of the program, the phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. The left is coming for Hyatt. Now, I happen to like Hyatt for a variety of reasons. You know, I stay at a lot of hotels. Even during the pandemic, I've been traveling a good bit. One of my frustrations with hotels is they've all gotten into those big fluffy comforters that you're sleeping under hen. Their air conditioners are crap and you're sleeping under hen, so you sweat all night. It's totally uncomfortable. What I like about Hyatt is they have not given into that. The whole Westin bed phenomenon. Westin, I think, was the hotel chain that began the whole fluffy down comforter thing where you're sweating all night. I personally, I like a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn Express where you got your own window unit so you can make the room as cold as you can. I like to sleep very cold. And when I stay at nice hotels, like I stay at the Intercontinental, or I used to stay at the Intercontinental a lot in Atlanta, the Intercontinental, and the air conditioner just doesn't work great. The Hyatt, the rooms get cold and they don't pile you up under all those feathers. I like the Hyatt. They give you a nice bedspread, and then you have a blanket, an extra blanket in case you get cold. I like the Hyatt. You can sleep comfortably in a Hyatt, in a Grand Hyatt, and a Hyatt Regency, and in a what are the Hyatt Centric and the mini Hyatts that are like the upscale Hampton Inn. I like the Hyatt more than you wanted to know. I realize. Well, the Hyatt is coming under attack from progressives. They want the Hyatt canceled. Why? Because CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, was hosted at a Hyatt in Florida. They want the Hyatt canceled, which is silly. You even had one guy accused Simon Rosenberg. Who is Simon Rosenberg? He's got a blue check mark. Oh, he's a senior strategist for the DCCC in the Clinton War Room. He's accusing CPAC of having a stage that looks Nazi-like. That's right. My goodness gracious. That's right. The stage looked Nazi-like. These people are broken. Alyssa Milano, yep, that's right. Alyssa Milano has accused CPAC of setting the stage up to reflect Nazi symbolism. And she wants Hyatt blockaded for hosting the event. Y'all, yeah, you can't make this stuff up. They're coming for CPAC for claiming the stage. Now, here's the thing. No one in that room could see the stage from above, and they're claiming the stage looked like a not the swastika, but a different symbol worn by some of the Nazis. They are really that broken. And Hyatt says that anyone gets to host conferences. Hyatt says they're not going to be bullied by the left, that this is a legitimate conference of conservatives, and they're not going to be canceled. They're not going to be bullied. If you don't want to stay at a Hyatt, don't stay at a Hyatt. That's fine. More rooms for me. It's also, by the way, Salon.com. Salon is a left-wing publication, and it, too, is in on calling conservatives Nazis. Here's the headline: Conservatives are the new good Germans, enabling and defending Trump's crimes. Whatever conservative once meant in American politics, it's now just a flimsy rhetorical shield for fascism. If you want a sense of why you should not take this person seriously, even though his view is being shared by the left, listen to this. Listen to this. For several decades, I'm sorry. This is someone writing at Salon. I'm sorry. I shouldn't give it my serious anchorman voice. I should give it my serious progressive voice. For several decades, The Republican Party has targeted Democrats as being radical and too liberal and veering into socialism and being out of touch with everyday Americans. Like, in reality, like the Republican Party, it's like destroyed a strategy of asymmetrical polarization. Big word, big word, big word. In which it has consistently dragged the Democrats further and further to the right. And the mainstream news media has largely been cowed into enabling the Republicans' turn to extremism for fear of being slurred as too liberal and biased. Thus, the defensive compulsion, like towards both siderisms and like a bogus neutrality, rather than like objective truth-telling and a spirited and resolute defense of American democracy. That's right. Woke progressive believes the Republican Party has deployed a strategy that has dragged the Democrats to the right and cowed the media into peddling Republican talking points. I don't know why we should take this person seriously. I have no idea. This is yep. This is a very, very, very far left person. You know, it's one of the common strains between the right and the left is that both sides think the other side is nastier and more ruthless. The reality, however, is that both sides engage in ruthlessness and both sides can be nasty, but also that if you are on the left and you think the GOP has dragged the Democratic Party to the right and has cowed the media into selling Republican talking points, you're not in this reality. You're not in this reality. And this person is peddling the idea on Salon.com. Now, you need to understand Salon is a for-profit company that demands that we click on Salon, which is why I won't share a link because I don't want to help Salon make money. You should know, however, that these people are peddling the idea that the media is right-wing and the Democrats have moved to the right in response to the Republicans, even as they're canceling Mr. Potato Head and coming for Dr. Seuss. That's where we are with this strain of the left. And really, the whole idea that the left is somehow not nasty, the whole idea that the right is just really mean and the left needs to be as mean as the right, it does not comport with reality. I don't remember the last time a conservative tried to shut a baker down for refusing to bake a cake. I don't remember the last time someone on the right tried to put a photographer out of business for not wanting to take pictures. And yet here we are with the left. Now, they're about to turn on themselves. I have to say, there is a level. I guess Schadenfreude is one way to look at it. Y'all, the Democrats are about to turn on themselves, and I know the media wants to focus on a Republican civil war. I know the media wants to focus on Republicans are at war with each other. But I gotta play you this comment from genius Ilhan Omar. Genius Ilhan Omar was on CNN over the weekend. Listen to this conversation.
You say unacceptable. You say replace the parliamentarian. The White House says President Biden is disappointed, but that he respects the parliamentarian's decision and the Senate's process. So the White House says essentially, sorry, let's move on. What now?
I mean, that is disappointing, actually, to hear the White House say that. The role of the parliamentarian is advisory, and there is an opportunity for us to overwrite when we do not have that advice, allowing us to pass a policy that is supported by 2/3 of the American people that would essentially give a pay increase to 28 million people. And it is unacceptable, I believe, for us to continue to come up with excuses on why we can't do the right thing on behalf of the American people. When the Republicans are in charge and they have the majority, they do everything that they can, and they don't let anything get in the way in providing profits for corporations. This is the time for Democrats to fight for working Americans for this opportunity that they are given.
So ignore the rules, ignore the bomb, do whatever you can. So they're calling the Republicans fascists. Well, you've got Ilhan Omar saying, "Man, screw the rules. We got to get this done. Do whatever it takes, get it done." You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on TV as well, making the same statements. You've got her out there saying, we must. She's on MSNBC. Listen to this.
Our two options are realistically this: override the parliamentarian or eliminate the filibuster. Those are the only two paths that we have in order to actually create substantive change in the United States. And that is what people across the country sent us here to do. So we should have our number one priority to be on delivering and making good on the promises that we made, and not allowing these procedural obstacles, which can be overridden, to get in our way.
So ignore who's the authoritarian here? I thought Donald Trump was the authoritarian fascist. Here comes Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to say, ignore the rules. To heck with the rules. Change the rules. Get rid of the rules. Never let a rule come between the left and progress. Any rule, now listen, they were fine with the filibuster when Republicans were in charge of the Senate. But the moment they're in charge, suddenly get rid of the rule, get rid of the rule. Now, it's not going to happen. They're not going to get rid of the filibuster, the legislative filibuster. At least I don't think so. I don't think they're going to get rid of it, one, because they don't have the votes, and two, some of the senators who say get rid of the filibuster really don't want to get rid of the filibuster, but they can say it because they know it's not actually going to happen. It's one of the lessons I had to learn in politics along the way on the right, is there are a lot of Republican politicians who can take a stand knowing that it doesn't matter because it's not going to happen, like defunding Planned Parenthood. They could say, yes, I support defunding Planned Parenthood, knowing that they don't have the votes to get rid of it. It's remarkable what politicians on both sides of the aisle can say, knowing that it's never going to get taken seriously. The problem there is that it further radicalizes your base over time. When you keep saying you want to do this stuff and it never gets done, your base gets angry with you. You get a Donald Trump on the Republican side, maybe you get an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the left. But here's the thing. On the left, what you have right now is a constant drumbeat for ignore the rules, get rid of the rules, change the rules. Anything it takes to get done what they want to get done. How is that not authoritarian? The parliamentarian in the Senate made a decision, and the left says, well, get rid of the Republicans. They did that in 2001. We should do it now. Get rid of the legislative filibuster, they say. Drip, 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 drip. All of these little drips along the way as they advocate for a change that they want. By the way, they don't really even need the change. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal where, what is it? It's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Employment Policy Division is opposed to $15 an hour, although they say it's reasonable to look at increasing it. The Business Roundtable, which is an advocacy group for large companies, supports raising the minimum wage, but is concerned about the $15 an hour proposal. But when you get into this story, buried deep in the story, listen to this. Costco is raising the $15 an hour minimum wage. Amazon is doing it and lobbying Congress to do it. Amazon, listen to this, passing a $15 an hour minimum wage, quote, would increase incomes for millions of employees and revitalize the national economy, end quote, says Jay Carney, Amazon's senior vice president for global corporate affairs, who is also Barack Obama's press secretary. Target has raised it. Best Buy has raised it. Hobby Lobby has raised it. So if all of these companies are raising it, why does the federal government need to raise it? If all of these companies are raising the minimum wage without a government mandate. Why does the government need to do it? If a small company, guess what? A small company doesn't want to raise the minimum wage. Surprise, you don't have to work for that company. Go work for Best Buy or Walmart or Target or Hobby Lobby or Amazon or Costco. You don't have to work at the small business. If you don't like the fact that a business doesn't want to raise the minimum wage, you don't have to work there. The idea that the government should mandate that any business raise the minimum wage to an amount determined by coastal elites is nonsensical. The cost of living in South Georgia is different from Atlanta, is different from Washington, is different from New York City. In fact, the Business Roundtable suggests we shouldn't have a one-size-fits-all minimum wage because different areas of the country have different lifestyles and different costs of living. The free market works. The companies that can are raising the minimum wage, and you don't have to work for those who don't. And if you're going to complain and say, well, that's not fair, no one can live on this hourly wage, well, don't work there. Don't shop there. Boycott them. Force them to do it. But to have a one-size-fits-all government-mandated minimum wage is terrible economic policy. But then what does the left know about good economics?
Want to be on the show? Call Eric now at 877.
Hello there, it is Erick Erickson here. If you would like to be a part of this here program, you can call in 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. So I got to get a clip of audio. I specifically chose not to get Charlie to cut up this clip because I wasn't sure I wanted to approach it. But I think I do in light of a news story that has come out this morning. It turns out that the Biden administration has redacted names from an intelligence report about the Khashoggi killing. Now, the Trump administration released the names even as they did not wish to do anything to Saudi Arabia. And if you'll remember, this Khashoggi guy was a reporter, I think for the Washington Post. He wrote some for the Washington Post. He was killed in Turkey, and the Turks leaked the information, leaked the story that the Saudis were behind it because they wanted to embarrass Saudi Arabia and the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. Well, there's been international outrage, and particularly in the reporter pool in Washington, New York, there's been massive amounts of outrage because Jamal Khashoggi was a reporter, and they wanted repercussions, and they claimed that the Trump administration was protecting the Saudis, and we needed someone to come into office and shake things up and punish the Saudis. So Biden came into office and has extended the Trump administration policy. Listen to this exchange, Aaron Burnett and the White House.
Grabian, the multimedia marketplace.
Oh, I'm getting it right off of Grabian.
So I want to ask you also about the Jamal Khashoggi report today, the U.S. intelligence report on the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, right? The brutal dismemberment. It was released.
Grabian,
It reads,
the
quote, we
multimedia
assess that
marketplace.
Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
And look, I'm not sure why Grabian wants to since I'm logged into my account, but nonetheless, it became a big media sensation when Aaron Burnett decided she needed to ask Jen Psaki about it on live TV. And Psaki defended the Biden administration continuing the Trump administration policy of dealing with Saudi Arabia. Now, I want you to notice a couple of things here. One, the media is really livid about this because, again, it is worth noting Jamal Khashoggi was a reporter who went to the Saudi embassy in Istanbul and was, by all accounts, chopped into pieces and either flushed down the drain or carted out in garbage bag. Literally, dude was apparently dissected. And the media has demanded accountability, and Democrats have promised for, I think, 2 years, 3 years, that there would be an accounting. Saudi Arabia would be held accountable. Something would happen. You elect Democrats, and Saudi Arabia will be made to account for the Jamal Khashoggi murder. And everybody knows that it was the Saudi crown prince who did it. So Aaron Burnett raises the issue with the White House press secretary on her show. And the response is essentially that, well, sorry, we're not changing policy. And here's what she says. Let's be clear, this was a horrific crime. It can never be tolerated. President Biden has been clear he intends to have a very different relationship with Saudi Arabia than our predecessors. But what's the different relationship? There isn't one. Same as the old relationship. Nothing has actually changed. And the media, which wants to protect Joe Biden, isn't sure how to engage the story now because they're livid. Joe Biden promised them change, and all they can do is hang their hat on, well, he says it's going to be a different relationship. How is it going to be different? In no way visible to anyone will it be different. I guess we're going to go back to it's the thought that counts, that, you know, just like the kids in chains and the shipping cargo at the border. It's just the thought that counts. That's how it's different. Greetings and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. I hope you're having a great Monday. I realize it's Monday, but come on. I hope you're having a good one. It is 6 after the hour. Let's get started. The phone number, if you would like to call in, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. You can always go to ewerickson.com or ericericksonshow.com, and you can see the show notes, you can get the podcast, read what I'm writing, listen to the live stream if you're out of your local broadcast area, all sorts of stuff there. And follow me all over the internet at EW Erickson, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I'm ubiquitous. All right. We gotta discuss. Ah, man, this one is kind of funny to me. I mentioned the other day, last week, as you will recall, Hasbro announced it was getting rid of Mr. Potato Head, except not really. Hasbro has decided to rebrand as Potato Head because they sell a Mr. and a Mrs. They have predetermined the genders of the potatoes instead of just sticking them all up the backside of the potato and letting individuals decide for themselves. But Hasbro was trying to balance between the wokes and the non-wokes. First, they came for Mr. Potato Head. Now, they're coming for Dr. Seuss. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution has a education column. And there is a guest column now from a teacher, Cheris Granger Mbugawa, I think, Mbugua. She is a national board certified teacher. She's a Spelman graduate. And she writes about Dr. Seuss. A 2019 study found only 2% of Dr. Seuss's human characters were people of color, and they were reduced to racist caricatures. Now, I want to read you part of this because there are some points that must be made. Nearly 7 years ago, when I was pregnant with my first child and filled with all the wonder and anticipation of an inexperienced mom-to-be, I was gifted a lovely hardcover collection of Dr. Seuss classics by a dear coworker and friend. From How the Grinch Stole Christmas to The Cat in the Hat, this anthology of Seuss favorites struck me as a thoughtful and generous gift, as we were both high school English teachers with a shared love of language, literature, and reading. I was eager, as is to be expected of any new mom, to read to my soon-to-be-born baby, a boy, and Dr. Seuss's famous and well-known stories seemed a wonderful start. I proudly displayed the book on a shelf in his nursery, and though I rarely pulled it down to read, I always thought it was a beautiful addition to my son's personal library. Little did I know at the time, and honestly, even up until recently, the racist and damaging history of Dr. Seuss and his work, which included many famous children's stories, illustrations, and minstrel shows. I am inclined to believe that the friend who gave me the book was also ignorant of the harmful and destructive stereotypes Seuss used. Listen to that. I am inclined to believe, not I don't know, but I am inclined to believe the friend had no idea. Otherwise, cancel culture for that friend. Over the last few weeks, not months, not years, but weeks, however, I have found myself learning about just how problematic Dr. Seuss and his books are, especially for children who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Now, here's the thing. This is important. This person read the books and used the books. It was only recently that this person had a wake-up call, was ignorant of the truth of Dr. Seuss's writings until recently. Now, why was she ignorant of Dr. Seuss's books? Because over time, Dr. Seuss changed. In fact, a lot of the stuff that is Dr. Seuss is accused of being racist was World War II propaganda against the Nazis and Japanese. There were racist stereotypes. For example, I'm reading from drseussart.com. Dr. Seuss originally referred to a character as a Chinaman and showed his skin color as yellow. It's important to note that in a later reprint, he removed the color and changed the text to a Chinese man. Dr. Seuss's nephew, Ted Owens, noted that his uncle updated his books as standards and tastes evolved. Now, get this. This is from the Washington Post. In 2016, let's see here. This is Barack Obama in 2016.
All of the stuff you need to know is in Dr. Seuss. It's like the Starvelly sneezes, you know? We're all the same. So why would we treat somebody differently just because they don't have a star on their belly? If I think about responsibility, I think about, Horton sitting on the egg up in the tree while Lazy Maisie's flying out doing whatever she wants. You know what I mean? All I'm saying is that as you get older, what you will find is that the homespun basic virtues that your mom or your dad, folks you care about or admire taught you about hard work, being responsible, being kind, giving something back, being useful, working as a team. It turns out it's all true.
That's Barack Obama in 2016. For the Read Across America initiative. This is Reading Month in America and the Read Across America initiative. Now let me put this into proper context for you. 4 years ago, the first black president of the United States was positively citing Dr. Seuss as a person from whom you can learn lessons about how to treat other people. Fast forward 4 years, and American educators are saying, no, we can't read Dr. Seuss because in his early works he was racist. Y'all, oh, the places you'll go. How many of those stories from Dr. Seuss have been given as graduation gifts? I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. That Sam I am. That Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Would you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Sam clearly was a bigoted, homophobic, anti-trans, horrible person who has to be canceled because he wanted dude to eat green eggs and ham. And guess what? He wound up liking them when he finally tried them. Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam I am. And I would eat them in a boat. And I would eat them with a goat. What? He's a what? Oh, that's problematic. Yes, terribly, terribly problematic here. First they came for Mr. Potato Head, and now they're coming for Dr. Seuss. Does Barack Obama have to be canceled for 4 years ago saying you can learn all of life's lessons on how to treat people well by reading Dr. Seuss? I mean, where is the racism in The Grinch? Cindy Lou Who, was she a member of the Klan and we just didn't realize it in the book? Horton Hears a Who. A what? See, Horton is ignoring the oppressed. This is crazy town ridiculousness that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is giving voice to. An educator who writes, though I may be late, I am willing to admit that I was ignorant to the truth of Dr. Seuss's writings until recently. I have unknowingly read many of his books to my own children, but now that I am better informed, I am committed to advocating for change, because when we know better, we should be better. What's so interesting here is you essentially have an English teacher who wants to ban a book, who wants you to stop reading certain books. First of all, I'm astonished that a newspaper that is privileged under the First Amendment to report the news would give voice to a column of someone who wants to essentially ban books. Second, it is worth pointing out 4 years ago what Barack Obama said about Dr. Seuss. And third, and most importantly, it's worth noting his evolution over time. Horton Hears a Who, the Lorax, the Sneetches, they're all about inclusion and acceptance. He spent the later part of his career where he really exploded into popularity teaching these things. The idea that you're going to read, "Oh, the places you go," and you'll wind up a racist. The idea that you shouldn't read it because the guy's views evolved over time, or he was a propagandist against the Japanese in World War II, or I don't like his original views on race, that were totally common at the time and aren't reflected in the works that we all read. Really, is The Cat in the Hat that racist of a book? This is where the left is these days. This is where they're headed, censoring everything they don't like and demanding we stop reading it, no matter that the later books written by Dr. Seuss actually reflect values that the first black president of the United States said you should embrace. I guess we've got to counsel Barack Obama now, or force him to walk through the streets while people chant shame at him. We're heading very Game of Thrones here in our society. All right, to the phones. I want to go to Billy. You're going to be up first. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm going to be very quick. The cancel culture is winning today. I work for a major pharmaceutical company. It has been requested of us to read a book titled "So You Want to Talk About Race" by an author by the name of, and I can't pronounce this, but I'll try, Chioma Oluo. Well, I did a little background research on this particular author, knowing that the people at my company didn't. And what she wrote in 2017, Eric, just after Trump was inaugurated, was she stated, if you voted for Donald Trump, you are a racist, including your grandmother. Now,
wow.
I'm a country boy. But I grew up in the South. That really angers me. That my regional manager has said, you guys need to read this so that we can understand better what African Americans are suffering through.
Yeah, look,
without Eric looking to see what else this idiot has written in the past.
Yeah, and so here's the thing that people need to understand here is that most of corporate America is doing this, forcing their employees to go through these things as some sort of religious sacrament to wokeism, hoping that the wokes won't come for the company. You're having to do the penance for the company, hoping that the wokes won't come for the country. They're essentially caving to Woko Haram by making you do this. And by the way, let me read you. I just pulled up her Ijeoma Olu's biography on Wikipedia. Her writing covers racism, misogyny, intersectionalism, online harassment, the Black Lives Matter movement, feminism, and social justice. Oh, yes. Sounds like something that corporate America needs to read because, you work for corporate America, so you're inherently bad just by working for corporate America.
Eric,
go ahead.
This bothers. See, I've debated. Do I say something? Do I write a kind note to my management team, the team that has requested that we read this, and do I share with them, these are the writings of this person? I'm offended by this, because if I do that, I put a target on my
You
back
do.
from this day forward.
You do. I will tell you, in my experience, it's not going to do you any good if you write that. And that's why there's a seething resentment among people in the United States right now, knowing that if you were to write that, a truthful statement that this person has insulted you and your values and considers you a racist for a vote, you're going to be the bad guy. And this is why, by the way, I don't think this is sustainable by the left.
I don't either. I told my children I believe this is cyclical. My children have drank the Kool-Aid, lock, stock, and barrel regarding this minutia, and it's everything that I can do to say, are these kids mine?
Yeah, listen, I hear from so many parents, and look, I'm looking at the clock, Billy. I got to let you go there because I got to go to break. But I hear this from so many parents these days. Their kids have just gone head over heels into social justice. My suspicion is that it'll come back. They'll come back because as the wokes get even more terroristic, people realize that there's no escape. It doesn't matter what you do. You're all burning because you're the original sin because of the color of your skin. And that's unfortunate that the wokes have gotten that way, but they have. The only way to push back is to not play.
You can follow Erick around social media.
It is Erick Erickson here. Welcome. The phone number 877-973-7425. To the phones we go. Theodore in Valdosta, you're next. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Eric?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a quick question for you. How come, and your call screener pointed out, but it's been a while since Lieutenant Governor Duncan has been on your show. I mean, not since after the election, I don't think. And he goes on CNN to trash, Trump or conservatives or whatever. Who does he think his voters are going to be next year?
That's a good point.
I mean,
they sent us an email last week asking to get him on. So I assume he'll be on here shortly. And let me just tell you my experience with the way the networks work right now, particularly with Fox and Newsmax, that if you've been on CNN at all, you're not welcome on those networks. And if you've been on those networks at all, you're no longer welcome on CNN. And there's a competitive angle there that we do need to be mindful of. But you're right. He has been on CNN as a vocal non-Trump voice within the GOP. And he probably does. For example, Brian Kemp has not gone on CNN at all. He's been on Newsmax and Fox News several times. The lieutenant governor probably needs a different media strategy. Maybe that's one reason they do want to come on here. I like the guy. I think he's a conservative. I don't doubt he's a conservative. He cares greatly about school choice, but he's also kind of on the outs with the base of the party and has aggressively defended the Republican party in Georgia's, or the Secretary of State and the governor's handling of this. It's an issue, and he's going to need to deal with this. I suspect we're going to see primaries across the board for the Republicans, and it could be a very expensive battle. My concern with the Republicans in Georgia right now is that you're going to have so many primaries for these statewide races that ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of people spend a whole lot of money, and we're not going to have that money to battle the Democrats. So my biggest, by the way, there's legislation, and I want to talk about this when we come back. There's legislation winding its way through the state legislature that would allow the Republicans to set up a bunch of super PACs in Georgia with unlimited funding so long as it's all disclosed. And part of this, what the media is missing, is there's a lack of trust between Republican leaders in the state and the Republican Party in Georgia. And it is quite fascinating to essentially watch the Republican legislature and the Republican governor mounting essentially an operation to dismantle their own Republican Party or neutralize it because they're not confident in the competence of that party to run elections going forward. And we need to spend a little bit of time on this when we come back, because there are some dangers in what the GOP is trying to do that I don't think they're thinking of. there. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number, if you would like to be a part of the program, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I need to discuss with you machinations within the legislature here in Georgia. The state of Georgia, its legislature, the Republicans in the legislature specifically, are advancing a plan. They rushed it through the Senate. They've made it to the House. It will probably pass and be signed into law. A piece of legislation that would create essentially leadership super PACs. The Republicans and the Democrats, both sides, would get super PACs by which they could receive unlimited funding to run elections. The Senate Republican leaders, the Democratic Republican leaders would each get one. The House Republican leaders, the Speaker would get one. The President Pro Tem of the Senate would get one. I'm sorry, the Speaker Pro Tem of the House would get one. And the Democratic leadership would get one. They would get unlimited funding as long as it's disclosed, and they could do with it as they will. This has corruption probe written all over it, frankly. I suspect if Republicans in the Georgia legislature really are intent on creating a bunch of super PACs for the Democrats and the Republicans that could receive money, including during the legislative session. In Georgia law right now, the legislature is prohibited from receiving campaign donations while the legislature is meeting. Under this legislation proposed by Republicans, the Republicans and Democrats could not only receive donations while the legislature is meeting, but could receive unlimited donations into these super PACs. The problem is beyond the corruption, is that because there won't be a prohibition on them spending money in the primaries, what you will see is that Republican leaders use their slush funds to annihilate conservatives. Does anyone really believe that if David Ralston, the Speaker of the House, if he gets unlimited funding, that he's not going to use that to try to destroy David Clark, who authored the resolution to pick him off, to get rid of the Speaker? Does anyone not think he will use that money to go after Sherry Gilligan and the other conservatives in the State House? If this legislation passes and there is no prohibition on spending during the primaries, you will see the Speaker of the House use this super PAC to destroy conservatives. How do I know? Because the Speaker of the House already has a leadership PAC run by the House caucus, and he used that and lobbyists to try to annihilate conservatives in their primaries this past time. Hello, Philip Singleton. State House member, military veteran, combat veteran, beat David Ralston's preferred candidate in a special election. He ran again as the Republican nominee and had the Speaker and a bunch of lobbyists pour money into his opponent's camp, largely because Philip Singleton challenged the Speaker of the House's power. If the Republicans create these super PACs, David Ralston will use them to destroy the last of the conservatives in the state Republican conference in the House. If they pass them, there needs to be a prohibition on using the money in primaries. That prohibition is not there, therefore I think the legislation needs to be opposed. Even if the legislation passes, it will be deeply corrupting. But there's a reason, and an understandable reason, for why they want to do it. You've got the Republicans looking at the rise of Stacey Abrams. And Abrams has a multitude of outside groups that funnel money back and forth between each other and take large dollars from campaign donors on the left and uses that money to not only boost herself, but to boost her cause and to boost other candidates. And most of that money is undocumented money. They don't have to disclose the donors. The Republicans don't believe they can compete with that structure. They don't believe they have money there to be able to compete with that structure. So what they want to do is do this essential super PAC for the governor, one for the lieutenant governor, the Republican leaders, take unlimited donations 24/7, 365, and raise as much money as possible to stop Abrams. I personally think that the law of unintended consequences kicks in when you do things like this. One of the things that happens is you will see the Democrats funnel a bunch of money into Stacey Abrams' groups, but then also start funneling money into the Democrats' PAC, and you will find that the Democratic leaders' PACs will be so flush with cash that they make it highly competitive for the Democrats in a way they're not right now. The law of unintended consequences will kick in, and the Republicans will find themselves out fundraised by the Democrats by doing this, even though they think that this is their way to be competitive. But there's a reason I'm not vehemently opposed to them doing this if they put in a prohibition on primaries so that the money can't be spent in primaries. And the reason is because the Republican Party in Georgia has shown itself to not be fully competent. And in fact, the Democratic Party in Georgia has likewise shown itself to not be fully competent. It was not the Democratic Party of Georgia that made gains and success in 2018 here in Georgia or in 2020. It was Stacey Abrams and her outside groups. Stacey Abrams is competent where the state party is not necessarily competent. On the Republican side, the state party of Georgia has had all sorts of issues. And when Sonny Perdue became governor, the state party morphed to a degree to become about getting the governor reelected. Screw everybody else, we're going to get the governor reelected. And over time, when Nathan Deal became governor, he exerted inordinate control on who the chairman of the party should be. And he wanted his guy in charge, and he wanted the party to be about reelecting the governor. That left the party in financial shambles. In fact, the party got sued for employment discrimination with the last of Nathan Deal's appointed chairman. The party had to settle lawsuits. It left the party on hard times without a lot of money. They brought in the new guy whose name escapes me, John, what's his name, who tried to get the party reorganized. He did a competent job. He was an interim person. He did not want to stay. John Watson. John Watson, if nothing else, knew where to raise money, how to raise money, and how to build a party. He didn't want to stay. He was perceived as too insider. At the state convention, David Schaefer won, and I supported David Schaefer. Schaefer lost the lieutenant governor's race. The problem is that Schaefer acts like he wants to be back in elected office and is using the party for himself as opposed to the party for everyone. The state party of Georgia under David Schaefer has presided over the loss of the presidency in Georgia for the first time since the 90s, the loss of 2 Senate seats in Georgia. The state party in Georgia under David Schaefer has not done all of the grassroots mobilization that David Schaefer, when he was the executive director of the party, did in the early 2000s, late 90s. The state party has not been able to fundraise. Essentially, the legislative Republicans and the governor in the state of Georgia want to create a series of super PACs that can take unlimited cash because they have no competence or confidence in the state party. They do not believe the state party is competent to run races in the state of Georgia anymore. They are also deeply concerned that David Schaefer intends to use the state party as a vehicle to get David Schaefer elected to government again. And that's one of the things that we can't ignore here, is that part of the issue is the Republican House, the Republican Senate, the lieutenant governor, and the Secretary of State, and on down the statewide elected officials, are all of them that I've talked to, and I've talked to almost all of them, are convinced that David Schaefer, the chairman of the Republican Party, intends to use the party to advance his own interest and get him back in elected office. And so none of them have a lot of confidence in the state party helping them when they all view it as helping him. And you've got to understand that dynamic is why they're trying to do this. They don't want to throw the party under the bus and disrupt the party itself. They don't want to go to war with their own Republican Party. But they're having to build super PACs to bypass the Republican Party of Georgia. They don't think the Republican Party in Georgia is competent enough to do what it's done in the past. The problem with their approach here is that it allows guys like David Schaefer to target conservatives in primaries and annihilate them with unlimited funding. The problem here is that it's opening the door to corruption. And the problem here is that they are changing the rules in a way they think is in their best interest to compete with Stacey Abrams. And the reality is that they probably will get outmaneuvered by her in this. I get the concerns, I get the desires, I get the needs. I would be less hostile to it if they prohibited spending in primaries. I think their concerns about the Republican Party in Georgia are justified and warranted. And I think they've got to find a way forward around the state party, bypassing the state party, unless the state party and its chairman can prove that the state party is existing for all of the GOP and not just the party chairman. I think that the Republican Party's chairman in Georgia poisoned the well by rushing in to undermine the election in Georgia in November and essentially throwing the governor, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state under the bus. This is a continued fallout and competence and consequence of what David Schaefer did. And the result is that you're going to see the Republican Party in Georgia essentially go belly up from lack of funding as the rest of the party votes for this as a no confidence measure against David Schaefer and the GOP. Again, though, I think that the Republicans have got to put a provision in that the money can't be used in primaries. At least for the legislative ones. So they're going to allow the Democrats to create one for governor. The minority party will get one for governor, and the majority party will get one for governor. If they want to use the money for the gubernatorial ones in primaries, go for it. But the legislative ones, I don't think should be used in primaries, if only because I know exactly what the Speaker of the House is going to do. And frankly, I know what some of the legislative leaders in the Senate would want to do as well. And it'll be targeting conservatives and driving them out. And we need more conservatives, not less conservatives. Particularly when redistricting comes. We're going to have redistricting upon us in August. Some members of the legislature will be drawn into districts with other members of the legislature. My belief right now is that the state house, under the control of David Ralston, is going to try to wipe out as many conservatives as possible. You will probably see people like David Clark drawn into districts with other Republicans in a way that weaken him. Probably Sherry Gilligan as well. Some of the others. Anything we can do to have the backs of conservatives in the state legislature, we need to. Because the vision of Republicans in Georgia offered up by the Speaker of the House in Georgia is let's be Democrat light. We will give everyone what the Democrats say they want to give people, just not as much. And I don't think that's a compelling message for victory. So if you see your state legislator, advise them that while you understand why they want to create these super PACs, that if they're going to use them to target Republicans in primaries, you know this is about annihilating conservatives. And if you're a member of the state party in Georgia, you should understand that by refusing to hold yourselves accountable and allow your state party chairman to continue unimpeded, you have just caused the state Republicans in the legislature to undermine financially the Republican Party. The actions of the state party leadership have consequences. And one of the chief consequences is going to be Republicans in the legislature essentially bypassing the GOP from here on out. And the state party refusing to hold its chairman accountable for what happened is why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it. To a person, everyone who came to me and said, hey, will you let us talk about this? I understand why they're doing it. And to a person, they've all explained it that way. That this is about bypassing the Republican Party because the legislative members, the leadership, they no longer have trust in David Schaefer and the GOP to help them get elected. The problem is that this is going to be weaponized and deeply corrupting. And if they're going to allow the party or allow the fundraisers to wipe out conservatives, you know what? I think they need to not do this. And I think we all need to speak up vocally and say, unless you put in a provision that says these can't be used in primaries, this is deeply corrupting, and we oppose it.
You can follow Erick around social media at
Hello there. It is 53 after the hour, and I am Erick Erickson. And if you would like to call and chat, the phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Y'all, I don't care where you are in the state of Georgia. The Cherry Blossom Festival is coming back. You know, so I at one point, my law office in Macon was in the Fickling building. And I always thought there was space for rent up there. Whenever I get an office, I would love to be up there broadcasting live from the top of the Fickling building in downtown Macon, Georgia, home of the Cherry Blossom Festival. Well, the Cherry Blossom Festival, I may not have an office there, but the Cherry Blossom Festival, it is coming. The 39th International Cherry Blossom Festival, March 19th to 28th in downtown Macon. COVID or not, the festival is coming. Now, there's a point here. People are worried about COVID-19 still, and, you know, with the strains coming, the variants coming and the like, where some states are no longer seeing a major decline. They're seeing a plateauing here in Georgia as well. We're seeing a plateauing of cases. And in the 70 moving average, we've kind of flattened a little bit. But by and large, the trend lines are still good. And so life is starting to go back to normal as people get vaccines. And by the way, I got to say, it is a terrible, bad message to be out there and say, oh, well, we need to still stay closed down after you get your vaccine. You need to still wear triple masks after your vaccine. That's not a good message. And most of the medical professionals out there are starting to get this. Now, here is from the Macon Telegraph. Although he's hopeful this festival will be a success, Scott Mitchell, owner of the Travis Jean Emporium, said he's worried about people taking safety precautions against COVID-19 seriously. As a business, I need Cherry Blossom to happen, but as a human, it concerns me because at the same time, I don't want us to do anything that could possibly be hurting other people, he said. He believes the planning board for the festival is doing all they can to make sure people are safe, and he hopes enough people will have the vaccine by then to help prevent an outbreak. Mitchell isn't sure how much business downtown will get from the Cherry Blossom Festival because most of the events that would bring the business, such as the Wiener Dog Race and Parade, are going to be virtual this year. They're going to have a virtual Wiener Dog. What? Well, you're still going to be able to go downtown and Macon. If you've never been to Macon, it's actually a really neat festival because we have more cherry blossom trees per capita in Macon, Georgia than anywhere else. There are there are 100,000 people and 300,000 cherry blossom trees. 3 trees for every person in Bibb County. That's more than Washington, D.C. with its cherry blossom festival that gets all the national attention. That's even more than in Japan, where they have cherry blossom festival. We got them all over Macon. I actually, in my present yard, do not have a cherry blossom tree. I probably need to plant one at some point. Nonetheless, they're everywhere and they're worth seeing. I don't know that Forsyth is having the Forsythia Festival. I don't know. Someone can tell me. But all these little festivals around the state are starting to crop back up. Some of them doing in-person and virtual stuff like the Cherry Blossom Festival. Some stuff will, some stuff not. People will be coming to see the trees. The buses will arrive. People will still probably be in masks. But life is going back to normal. They canceled last year's Cherry Blossom Festival, by and large. Life is going back to normal for people. And now the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is headed your way. A single shot is highly effective, not as effective as the 2-dose shots from Pfizer or Moderna, but highly effective, and may actually be more effective against that South African variant that everybody's warning about. Y'all, things are headed in the right direction. Things are headed in the right direction. And we should be optimistic. We should be upbeat. We should get the vaccine. Even President Trump at CPAC was on stage extolling the virtues of the vaccine and that people should get it. I think if President Trump campaigns around the nation on his legacy that Operation Warp Speed brought you this, that not only does it help him in the run-up to 2024, it helps get people to go get the vaccine who are otherwise skeptical. Republicans demographically tend to be the most skeptical group. I got the first dose. I get the second dose this coming Saturday. My wife got under the weather from her second dose, and a lot of our friends did, but then my parents and her parents were fine. And for some reason, it seems like older people tend to weather the second dose way better than younger people because younger people present a more robust immune system. That appears to be the problem, but that's actually a good sign that the virus is working. Y'all, I'm telling you, things are good, things are great, and it is time for us to get back to normal. And the fact that the Cherry Blossom Festival is coming back is a real good sign that life is coming back to normal across the state. And I am so happy. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. Go to firstlibertyga.com. Find out more. If you're a business and need help, go check out firstlibertyga.com. Greetings, how are you? Welcome. The third hour of the Erick Erickson Show. The phone number, if you would like to be a part of the program, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I want you guys to do something. There is a national competition underway for best beer garden in America. And there is one Georgia brewery that is up for a vote. And it is Tucker Brewing. And it's one of my favorites. You know, just as an aside here. We'll get into the real news of the day, but beer is also important. Martin Luther was a brewer. There's this crazy trend these days that bothers me with not just craft brewing, but others, where you just got to come up with the most absurd combination and everybody's got to pretend it's good. I'm sorry, but I despise the whole idea of all of these frou-frou combination fruity beer stuff. I don't want fruit in my beer. I want a beer that tastes like a beer, not like a papaya. I'm sorry. I don't like fruity beer. I don't particularly like stouts. I think that hipsters in their skinny jeans drinking IPAs, hell will be full of IPAs. Heaven is going to have delicious pilsners and lagers and the like. And Tucker Brewing in Tucker, Georgia, is one of the places that I think has some of the best beer in Georgia. It is very small. In fact, I can't even get it in Macon, and I'm ready to be able to buy it in Macon. Now, we have Fall Line Brewing in Macon, which is a great setup. In fact, I went by there on Saturday. That place was slammed. I went in to buy a T-shirt. That place was slammed with people, and it's got the Fall Line Lager. If you can find it distributed to you, I can get it in my local grocery store, but I don't know that you can get that anywhere across the state of Georgia. Some of Georgia's craft beer brewers have exploded onto the national scene, like Sweetwater. And Sweetwater just got bought by a Canadian marijuana company. And then what is it? Creature Comforts in Athens is fantastic. A friend of mine, they've got a lager or a pilsner. A buddy of mine calls it Rich Man's Miller Lite. It's a acceptable beer. I actually like the Fall Line Lager better than Creature Comforts. And then I really like Tucker Brewing. Now, across the state of Georgia, there are little craft beer breweries all over the place now. But only one has been nominated by USA Today as the best beer garden in the nation. And Tucker Brewing is German-style beers, and it's got this fantastic beer garden. And you can get great pretzels, you can get good food, you can play horseshoes, bocce ball. They've got a fantastic setup. It really is nice. And USA Today has a national competition going right now. And I don't care where you are in Georgia, we should stick up for the home team. So if you text the word data to 33777, you'll get a link back that says vote for Tucker. And all you have to do is click through the link. It takes you right to USA Today and click the vote button and support Tucker Brewing. We should be sticking up for the hometown brewer here in Georgia. They do good stuff. If you're ever in the Tucker area, it's actually worth stopping by. It really is a cool venue. I really am a fan of their beers. They've done a great job, and I am so happy to be able to give them a shout out and help them and say, go vote for Tucker, because they're worth it. They're good people. They actually are really good people. And by the way, I continue to be delighted as a Presbyterian, grew up Southern Baptist and now in a PCA church. I continue to be delighted by the number of local breweries that have gotten started in Georgia by a group of guys getting together for a Bible study. Monday night has exploded that way. Reformation, Monday night, and several others in the Atlanta area, North Georgia. They all got started by guys meeting on certain nights of the week, doing Bible studies and brewing beer when their wives were in Bible study, and they just kind of exploded. Monday night calls itself Monday night because the guys would get together on Monday night and brew beer and had a Bible study, and the whole thing exploded, and they are now making waves across the country, but particularly here in Georgia. All right, I'll move on to stuff that matters, but seriously, text the word data to 33777 that you might consider supporting the hometown beer garden here in Georgia. Andrew Cuomo may possibly be getting canceled. Here's the headline in Politico by Bill Mahoney. Being playful. Cuomo says he teased staff, agrees to independent inquiry. Subtitle, the embattled governor says he never intended to offend. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo on Sunday offered his most detailed response yet to allegations that he sexually harassed two staffers, saying in a statement that his comments were intended to be good-natured and that he was sorry those interactions had been misinterpreted as an unwanted flirtation. Cuomo, facing increasing criticism of his fumbled attempts to hand the issue off to an independent investigator, admitted Sunday evening that he likes to tease people in the office. I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in ways I never intended. I acknowledge some of the things I have said have been misinterpreted as an unwanted flirtation. To the extent anyone felt that way, I'm truly sorry about that. Now, wait just a minute. Where's this audio I had from the other day? Remember how Cuomo apologized over his handling of all the dead senior citizens? Remember the arrogance in his outburst? That it was, if he has anything to apologize for, it's to apologize for being distracted. Here we go.
We should not have created the void. We should have done a better job in providing information. We should have done a better job of knocking down the disinformation. You'd never knock down all these conspiracy theories, the political conspiracy theories, because they generate 10 a day. But we should have done a better job of providing as much information as we could, as quickly as we could. And we should have done a better job on that. Yes. And no excuses. I accept responsibility for that. I am in charge. I take responsibility. We should have provided more information faster. We were too focused on doing the job and addressing the crisis of the moment, and we did not do a good enough job in providing information. I take total responsibility for that.
So he's not going to apologize for sending senior citizens to their deaths. What he's going to apologize for is, we didn't do an adequate job of talking to people. We were too busy focused on fixing the problem. He didn't fix the problem. He killed a bunch of senior citizens, and he refuses to apologize for it. And now here he's saying essentially that I'm so sorry if people were offended. I didn't realize that my teasing staffers was being was coming across as sexual harassment. For example, telling one girl that did she ever date older men because he liked to date younger women, and was she interested? Now the New York Times headline, under siege over sexual harassment claims, Cuomo offers apology. Governor Andrew Cuomo on Sunday sought to stem the growing political fallout over fresh allegations of sexual harassment, acknowledging that he may have made inappropriate remarks that could have been misinterpreted as an unwanted flirtation to a young female aide during private meetings last spring. Mr. Cuomo, 63, said his comments, including those which emerged in an account from the aide Charlotte Bennett, were an extension of life spent at work, where he sometimes teased people about their personal lives and relationships. The response from the governor seemed to reflect the gravity of Ms. Bennett's accusations and those of another female aide last week, as well as the potential damage they could cause to Mr. Cuomo, a third-term Democrat. Mr. Cuomo, who emerged as a national leader during the pandemic, also repeated his calls for an independent investigation of his own behavior, though the decision over who would oversee that inquiry has already proven torturous. His initial choice of a former federal judge to lead the investigation was met with overwhelming criticism, as was his second suggestion that Letitia James, New York's Attorney General, be paired with Janet DeFiore, the chief judge of New York State's highest court, to jointly pick someone to investigate the matter. The Attorney General rejected the proposal. Finally, late Sunday, Cuomo relented again, saying in a statement he would grant subpoena power to whoever Ms. James designated as an outside investigator, as Ms. James has demanded. Now, my initial reaction to this was that it doesn't matter. He can be Ralph Northam. You know, Ralph Northam, in his college yearbook, either appeared as a Klansman or in blackface. He won't admit which was him. And he just apologized generally and refused to leave. And Cuomo could do the same thing. Cuomo could just apologize, as he did on Sunday, have the press circle the wagons, protect him. He's got his brother on CNN who won't talk about the story at all, and just move on. Except I was informed by a knowledgeable source that there's a different situation here than in Virginia, and it complicates things for Andrew Cuomo. With the Andrew Cuomo situation, the progressives in New York realize there's blood in the water. And Cuomo, ironically, is the one major New York Democrat who has dug his heels in to keep the party from going even further left. Cuomo is already of the left, but a lot of loud voices in New York want to move the party even further to the left, including the Attorney General in New York. They want to move the party left further than Andrew Cuomo has wanted to move the party left, and there's blood in the water now. And they sense they could destroy him. They could at least prevent him from running for a fourth term. And so Ralph Northam, who is term limited, he's only got one term. It's a quirk of the Virginia Constitution. Governors can only serve once, and then they got to leave. They can come back a second time, but they can only serve 4 years and then have to at least step down for a term. In New York, Cuomo's on his third term, has been thinking of running for a fourth term, and they've got the opportunity now, the ammunition, the firepower to be able to stop him, and that is what they want to do. So he knows he's got to scramble fast and will probably have to make some compromises to the left. Otherwise, they're going to wipe him out. But the lesson is from Ralph Northam in Virginia that all Cuomo's got to do is say, I'm sorry, and refuse to talk about the story and move on. And much of the media will give him a pass because they're desperately afraid it could help Republicans in New York. Remember, New York is a Democratic state, but Republicans are still viable as moderate to liberal Republicans. Pataki, Cuomo, even Bloomberg for a while. There are opportunities there for the GOP. And Cuomo knows it, and they know it, and the media knows it, and the media loves Andrew Cuomo, and they're willing to give him a pass. Even though he's more expendable now with Donald Trump gone than he was before, the media still loves him because he's their governor. So many of them live in New York, and they all voted for him.
You're listening to the Erick Erickson Show, the perfect
Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number, if you want to be part of the program, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I knew this was coming, and I am excited to tell you about it. Since I was in college, I've been a customer of Omaha Steaks. In fact, last week I interviewed the CEO of Omaha Steaks. It really is an American success story. This company was founded in 1917 in Omaha, Nebraska. A father and son, they fled religious persecution in Eastern Europe, in Latvia. And they got to New York City. They went through Ellis Island and decided to hop a train across the United States and would get off the train when they arrived in a place that reminded them of their home in Latvia. And so they hopped the train in Omaha, Nebraska, a place I have not been, that at some point I would like to go. And they started selling meat from carts, and ultimately in the 1920s got a contract to start selling steaks to the train passengers that were coming through. The trains at the time, of course, big into gourmet meals, and they would sell their beef to the trains. Well, the train customers would arrive home and start sending telegrams back to Omaha to the company saying, where can I find the steak that I got served? Well, Omaha Steaks actually ages its beef itself. It in Omaha, we're big cattle industry there. They go pick the best cuts. They age it for at least 21 days themselves, and then they sell it. So I guess the World War II era, they started using wax paper and actual real ice and wrapping it up and putting it on the train and sending it to people via the train. In the 1950s, they started a mail order business that has exploded over time. In fact, they were one of the very first companies in the U.S. to start using an 800 number so people could call. It's top quality. I have been giving Omaha Steaks since I was in college. I guess it was either Rush or Sean Hannity advertising for them on the radio. And I thought, this sounds like an adult gift to give someone. And I've been giving it over times. I now order it myself. I've gotten a brisket from them the other day. Put a brisket on the smoker. Their bacon wrap fillets are my favorite. And now one of my favorite things from them is chicken breast that I can slice. They come pre-sliced, and I can use it in stir fry. So I'm delighted to welcome Omaha Steaks as an advertiser to the program. And you can get a great deal from them. You can go get their Butcher's Bestsellers package today. It includes 4 of their Butcher's Cut filet mignons, 4 ultra juicy burgers, 4 savory pork chops, caramel apple tartlets, which my wife adores, and a whole lot more. You go to omahasteaks.com and you put Georgia in the search bar, and you're going to get the Butcher's Bestseller package. Plus, you'll get 4 more chicken breasts and 4 more of their burgers for free. Omaha Steaks has been doing this since 1917. They age their own beef. They know what they're doing. So go to omahasteaks.com, put the name Georgia, our state, put Georgia in the search bar, and you will get the Butcher's Bestseller package today, and the 4 free chicken breasts and the 4 burgers. That's omahasteaks.com. Put Georgia in the search bar, and I am delighted to have Omaha Steaks as our newest advertiser. It really means the world to me that they would take a chance on the show. And you know, I will tell you, this is in the ad here, but I will just tell you how good this company is. I had a buddy of mine, dear friend Tom Wagner, here in Macon, passed away several years ago. And in fact, his was the last funeral that I have been to before COVID. And he used to send us Omaha Steaks every year. And one year he sent it to us, and we had moved, and he didn't have the new address, and I didn't know it was him. And I went to our old house, and I got out of my car and could smell something that smelled rancid, bad, and got to the front door, and there was a box of Omaha Steaks that had to have been sitting at the front door for a month. The label had worn off. I couldn't tell who sent it. And I called the 800 number for Omaha Steaks and explained the situation to them. And they were very, very kind. They were able to look at the order. It turns out it was our friend Tom who had sent us the order. And they sent me a whole new box, the same stuff, sent it to me. And I was able to make sure Tom Wagner got his thank you note. And that's the sort of company that they are. In fact, the CEO was telling me a story. They had somebody in the power outage a couple of weeks ago get all of their Omaha Steaks was ruined, and they called, and the company just sent them no charge a new box. They're a great company, and I'm delighted to have them. I am sincere here. I realize that it's an advertising relationship now, but I love the company, and I'm just excited they're here. Now, I will move on. You know, one of the things that I pay attention to are all the streaming services. Well, Paramount advertised the snot out of its new Paramount Plus. It's CBS All Access is changing their name to Paramount Plus. And they're adding now, you're going to get all of the CBS NFL stuff. You're going to get all of the basketball stuff, the PGA stuff, the SEC stuff, the Women's Soccer League, the European League. All of this stuff is now coming. It turns out that Paramount Plus may actually be one you want to subscribe to. And they're getting a ton of documentaries. They're getting you all the Star Trek, classic Star Trek, MTV, because, you know, Paramount, it owns all of the Viacom stuff, so you got a lot of the Nickelodeon stuff is going to be in there. So SpongeBob. They're even having Paw Patrol is no longer canceled. You know, the left decided they had to cancel Paw Patrol because having a German Shepherd police officer was bigoted and racist, and so Paw Patrol had to be canceled. Well, they're bringing it back on Paramount Plus. Dora the Explorer, all of it. Dora the Explorer. You know, my kids love the Your Mama So Fat jokes, and my favorite has got to be Your Mama So Fat Even Dora Couldn't Explore. My kid told me that the other day and I nearly choked.
30.
Oh, my goodness. Is it awful that my kids have discovered the Your Mama So Fat jokes? Because I think they're fantastic. Your Mama So Fat, she saw a school bus go by and yell Twinkie. Okay, we got to move on. We really do. The Biden administration has begun conversations about reparations in the United States. Hello there. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I need to play you some audio from Barack Obama. He's got a new podcast out, and, well, he wanted to talk about reparations.
So if you ask me, theoretically, are reparations justified? The answer is yes. There's not much question, right? That the wealth of this country, the power of this country, was built in significant part, not exclusively, maybe not even the majority of it, but a large portion of it was built on the backs of slaves. What I saw during my presidency was that the politics of white resistance and resentment, the talk of welfare queens and the talk of the undeserving poor and the backlash against affirmative action, all that made the prospect of actually proposing any kind of coherent, meaningful reparations program struck me as politically not only a non-starter, but potentially counterproductive.
I would submit to you that any effort at reparations is counterproductive. Let me tell you my view on reparations. You've got Barack Obama essentially saying white people were an impediment to reparations. I actually agree with Barack Obama that a lot of the country was built on the backs of slaves, particularly in the South, a lot of the economy. I don't think there's any denying it. We shouldn't deny that fact. There's no reason to deny an inconvenient truth that is used as an argument for reparations, but just because it is so doesn't justify reparations. Reparations is the latest scheme from the woke social justice warriors of the left. It is designed to repay Black Americans for a history that involves not just slavery, but after the Civil War, an effort to segregate them out of society, Jim Crow laws and the like. Yes, it is true that there were put in place systems over time that kept Black Americans from acquiring wealth at the rate that white Americans have acquired wealth. But our society is in a better place now than it was then. And there are a lot of people on the left who say, well, you've got to not just give me equality, but equity. And equity is a subtle moving of the goalposts, where equality is a Black person and a white person have equal standing now before the law and equal operation. But what the left says is, but a Black person has been so historically discriminated against that we must now give something to them to get them up to where white people currently are, essentially imparting some level of fairness. But fairness is in the eye of the beholder. If you are an immigrant to this country, or you are a third-generation immigrant to this country, exactly how is it your responsibility for what the people who were Americans before you did? The left would argue, well, you've benefited from that system. Well, also, Black Americans have benefited from the hundreds of thousands of Union soldiers who laid down their lives to get them freedom. And Black Americans have benefited from the struggles that people Black and white gave to advance equality in this country. To obtain equality and say, well, now it's really not unless we redistribute from some and give to others, all that does is foster resentment. And to that, I think Barack Obama is right. It does foster a level of resentment to redistribute the wealth one has acquired on his own and said, well, you didn't really do that. There's this entire system in place that's no longer in place, but it used to be in place. And you, even though you didn't realize you benefited from it, you did benefit from it. And we need to redistribute what you got to other people who didn't benefit as you benefited, even though they now could. You are playing with fire when it comes to the idea of reparations. White House senior advisor Cedric Richmond told Axios on HBO that it's doable for President Biden to make first-term progress on breaking down barriers for people of color while Congress studies reparations for slavery. Biden said on the campaign trail he supports the creation of a commission to study and develop proposals for reparations, direct payments for African Americans. A House panel heard testimony on the legislation last week. I think the creation of a commission will pass, Richmond said. Richmond said that while the timeline for the commission isn't knowable, if you start talking about free college tuition to historically black colleges and universities, and you start talking about free community college in Title I and all those things, I think you're well on your way. We have to start breaking down systemic racism and barriers that have held people of color back, and especially African Americans. We have to do stuff now. Here's the fun thing. Joe Biden is a master politician, say what you will about him. And Joe Biden understands when you punt things to committees, they allow you a talking point without having to actually give you a policy that a lot of your supporters might not like. So Joe Biden can say, we're going to have a commission to study reparations, knowing that that puts it off and makes it someone else's problem. But not only that, it allows them to come up with an unworkable bureaucratic solution that can then be picked apart by both sides in Congress as splitting the baby. The left wants action on this. Now, there's a problem for the left that has to be overcome. In this country, Americans believe in equality. Some don't. Most of us do. When you give some people, because of the color of their skin, free tuition in college, paid for by the federal government, solely based on their skin color, that's not equality. When you start giving assistance to people based on the color of their skin, that's not equality. That's why the Democratic Party is rapidly moving towards an idea of equity. The problem is that equality is baked into the Constitution. We are all equal before the law. Equity is not baked into the Constitution. In fact, equity is anathema to the Constitution when you're taking from some to give to others. And it fosters greater resentment. You need to understand, this is why so much of the left right now is heckling and bullying, is targeting people over ideas like white guilt and white shame and white fragility, because they need people to be censored and keep their mouths shut so no one in the public square will speak up against their agenda. If you weren't here in the first hour of this program, a man called who works for a company that is requiring its employees to read a book on what it's like to be black and social justice from someone who said in 2016, if you voted for Donald Trump, not only are you racist, but your grandparents were racist. You're descended from racism if you voted for Donald Trump. But his company is advancing this issue as a way to protect the company from the wokes. Boko Haram, the terrorist organization of social justice warriors that rampages across this country, has hijacked Fortune 500 companies, and many of them live in fear of Boko Haram's agenda. And one of Boko Haram's agendas is reparations. And they understand that in order to get to reparations, what must happen is a badgering, a bullying, and a censoring, and a silencing of anyone who opposes the idea of reparations. You've got to have people silenced and cowered and unable to point out that, look at how many people died to free the slaves. How many white people in America died to free slaves? The Battle Hymn of the Republic. he died to make men holy. Let us die to make men free. The words were changed over time. Let us live to make men free. But notwithstanding the sentiment, let us die to make men free. That was the original line in the Battle Hymn of the Republic. A comparison of the Union cause to Christ, dying to make men holy, make men free, and hundreds of thousands of Americans died to make men free. And more rose up and stood for equality. We're not a perfect country. I know a lot of Americans think, well, we're perfect. Well, I think we're better than all the other countries. And if we lose this country, there's nowhere else for free people to go. But we are a free people. And we have come so far. The idea that the country is still systemically racist should be anathema to every American. But the left must advocate the idea and get you to believe the idea to advance their agenda. The Biden administration is dabbling into this. They're playing with fire because here's the thing. Reparations is not going to pass Congress. There will be a backlash to the idea of reparations if this gets too much steam. You will have people around the country voting against reparations, and you know what the left will do? Well, proof, you're all racist. How dare you not give me your hard-earned money, hard-earned money? How dare you deny me your property that you fairly acquired through your own merit and sweat equity? How dare you not give it to me who has not earned it? Well, it was systematic racism that kept me from earning it. Forget my life choices. Oh, and see, they'll come for me for this. They'll come for all of us for this. This has nothing to do with white versus black. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the left trying to undermine the fundamental dynamics of the United States. And those of you who've bought into the idea of systemic racism in this country at this moment in the 21st century need to understand you are buying into an idea and a philosophy that is antithetical to the American experience and that is deeply hostile to the American ideal. It is perpetuated by Marxist academics, and I don't use that term lightly. It is the truth. Critical theory is derived from Marxist thought. Marxist thought is antithetical to the American experience because in Marxist thought, equity is a thing that the communists impose on people. In this country, we are supposed to dismantle systemic racism and injustice so that people really are equal. And you are ignorant of our history if you cannot say we've made real progress. We, in fact, have made tremendous progress in this country. Are we perfect? No. Are we better than we were? You're damn right we are. And should you be able to take from someone else in the name of someone's non-forefathers but who shared the same skin color treating you badly? No, hell no, you shouldn't be able to do that. That is an unfairness. The idea that a third-generation American immigrant should have his wealth confiscated from him to give to someone else because that person's ancestors were treated badly by people not related to that guy is absurd. The idea that an immigrant who happens to be black should be able to benefit from reparations is absurd. And I don't know that most mainstream advocates of reparations, is reparations even mainstream, but those who are closest to mainstream, I don't think they would go there, but some would. It is absurd. It will foster resentment. It will foster greater division, but ultimately that's what this is about, is it not? They want greater division. They actually don't want the wounds to heal. Think of how many people will lose their jobs if we actually heal the racial divisions in this country. Think how many people will actually be out of a talking point if we're allowed to progress. Time is the great healer. Time is the institution that gives reparations by balancing us out over time and making us equal. The idea that the government should intervene, that the government should forcibly take from those who have and give to those who have not. We fought against that and won it with the collapse of the Soviet Union. And now those people, they're all, the people who were sympathetic to communists in the 80s, they're now all environmentalists and they're wokes. If this country confiscates people's wealth to give to other people, it will set back the progress this country has made. It will foster resentment. And the only thing the left can do is try to silence those who would point it out. The only thing the left can do is try to bully and cajole people into keeping their mouths shut. But too many people who will have their wealth taken from them, their sweat equity taken from them and given to other people, they're not going to take it lying down. And to a degree, I think that's what the left wants. Because they will thrive if they can break up the legitimacy of this country. That's what all of this woke nonsense is about. It's not really about healing. It's not moving on. The very fundamental core of critical theory that these people have embraced is an idea that you're part of a group and those groups fight for power. And the group that has the power needs to have the power taken from them and given to others. But that group, when it has power, will now be the bad guy because they use the power. What they want is the power, and then you will magically see critical theories change once they have power. And if the theory doesn't change, they'll just shut you up. The embrace of critical theory, the embrace of intersectionality, the embrace of the idea of reparations, they are all antithetical to the spirit of this country. And if you think the spirit of this country is bad, you're part of the problem, not the people who are just making a living in this country.
You're listening to the Erick Erickson Show, the perfect blend of...
Did you know that February of 2021 was colder than February of 2020? Did you know that the last 30 days are the coolest compared to climatology since the very late 2014? Things have cooled down. It's always when they start talking the most about climate change is when things get the coolest. I bet you that'll get buried in the headlines. I bet you it will. Well, folks, you need to know, and I apologize if there are children around you, but this is important. If you have children around you, you are warned. Sex Week is back at college campuses. That's right. On college campuses around the country, particularly this article is from Ohio State, deviancy is back in session. Oh, boy. And it's going to be virtual this time. Ohio State. It's brought to you by the Student Advocates for Sexual Health Awareness. And, well, they're trying to teach all sorts of normalizing of deviancy. And universities are falling all over themselves for this. Here's my thing. Instead of reparations, because I think about the poor folks in Appalachia, most of whom aren't black, they're white, and they live in shacks, a lot of them without running water. Why can't we do what Rick Perry did in Texas and offer a $10,000 degree from colleges across the country? Why can't you get a Bachelor of Arts degree at a reasonable price in this country? We pour resources from universities into sex weeks to teach kids how to do things they probably shouldn't. And we leave by the wayside actual academic knowledge. We set up on college campuses around the country grievance degrees. You can get the African American Studies degree, the Gay and Lesbian Studies degree, the Women and Gender Studies degree, and learn how historic grievances so you too can get a comfortable job in human resources doing nothing but making other people mad, as opposed to teaching basic skills in life. Now, of course, the kids who want real jobs using their hands or minds, they got to go to vocational training. They can't actually get a good academic degree because the academic degrees are all for the grievance societies now. You can learn about intersectionalism and learn about historic racial grievance in America and how the country is going to hell in a handbasket because you can't take somebody's money and give it to someone else against their will. You can learn all about how to be a prostitute and hire prostitutes and the fair living wages of prostitutes, but you want to actually learn something useful? Nope, can't do that anymore on college campuses. It's not woke enough. I just, I come back to James Carville one time urged me to go to my alma mater here in Macon and say, I could do a actual interesting class on political science and bring in great speakers and having run campaigns and know about the process, do that. And all I can think is that they would chase me from the campus. It is very interesting how close-minded the academic brain of America has gotten as the wokes take over and Boko Haram uses college campuses as terrorist training grounds for social justice. It's fascinating to watch. And even more fascinating to watch these colleges not being able to offer reasonably priced college degrees anymore to kids who actually do want to learn and get a college degree. And I suspect that when this economy hits hard times, which I suspect is coming soon, a lot of colleges that aren't very well endowed are going to have to close up shop. And they will complain and demand money. Part of me wonders if that is why reparations is in hot demand on college campuses, because they think it's their lifeline to stay alive by redistributing wealth across America. I don't think most colleges are sustainable if we have an economic decline in this country, particularly those that no longer educate but indoctrinate, and that's a lot of them, other than places like Harvard that has a massive endowment. But, I would rather my kid not go to the Ivy League these days, go to a place where they get a real education.